This morning. I'm not used to having coffee at press conferences, so it's usually after practice. But just to sort of reiterate a little bit what I said the other day, this is a little bit different. I've already in the old days, this was the first time you ever talked to the press, but we've also had SEC Media Day. We also had a little press conference the other day. So, but I just want everybody, because I think this is important, that the message really doesn't change. The time is now to resurrect the identity of the Alabama football program, and we're confident in the players that we have, but it's really up to them to a large degree in terms of what their buy-in, what their commitment, what their preparation to perform on a consistent basis, what's the mindset, as part of this identity, we or me. So all these things are questions that sort of get answered as time goes on. But the time is now, in terms of everything you've done all year long, to develop the kind of leadership that you'd like to develop on your team, that players put the team first, that people buy into the things that they have to do to develop the respect and trust of their teammates, so that you can really become a team. And that's something that doesn't just happen in a day. I would say after a couple days of practice, the things that I would comment about would be a lot of players on our team understand this, but a lot of players need to continue to understand and develop the ability to have the kind of mental intensity that it takes to execute, understand what their job is, how to do their job fundamentally, so that they have an opportunity to be successful. And I think players sometimes think that I'm going out here to practice, and if I can just get this right, all right, I got it. But really, you don't practice to get it right. You practice to do it so many times you can't get it wrong. And that's what we're trying to do with our players, so that we develop the habits that we need, so that we can play with the kind of consistency and execution that it takes to be successful, in what is very, very difficult league. Camp objectives are always about discipline, execution, fundamentals, and the conditioning level that you have to develop on your team to be able to sustain those things. Because you can talk about effort, you can talk about finishing plays, you can talk about toughness, you can talk about discipline to execute, but when a player gets tired, conditioning is a prerequisite to be able to do all those things. And that's something that, as much as you try to do it in the summer, you develop in fall camp, because football players can't really develop unless they practice. A basketball player can go shoot baskets all he wants on his own. Nobody else needs to be around. Golfer, he can go do whatever he wants on his own. But this is a team sport that you can only develop certain things when you practice and when you do it. And that's why fall camp is really, really important in terms of even the conditioning, the acclimation to having pads, the hitting involved. So all those things, to me, have to be camp objectives, and to develop the conditioning to sustain is definitely very, very important. So, our practice regimen is geared to trying to develop this intensity, sense of urgency, sense of immediacy, so that players can play with the kind of intelligence that will allow them to put themselves in the best opportunity to be successful. And I think the key thing right now, especially for young players, is when I make a mistake, that's something that I need to learn from, not something that I need to get frustrated about. And guys that have had a lot of success in their career in the past sometimes don't have the focus and attention to detail on how to do things correctly, because they've been able to get away with not doing it correctly and still having success. So this is something that we're always constantly trying to work to get the young players to buy into the importance of doing the little things right. Just to let you know, there'll be a couple players that may not practice today that have very, very minor injuries. I haven't talked to the trainers yet today, but Trey DePriest may be one of those guys. But these are 1-2 day type things. They're not things of significance that need to be. And I think that's going to happen throughout fall camp as well. Questions?
Start with Michael.
Just want to ask about T.J. Yeldon. When he's around us, he's kind of quiet. He's not very outgoing. What's he like behind the scenes in terms of affecting the team?
No, I think that's his personality. I think he's a sort of a quiet guy that he's a hard worker. He sets a really good example in terms of how he goes about his work every day, how he practices. I think the players have a tremendous amount of respect for the example that he sets, the work ethic that he has, the kind of competitor that he is, the toughness that he plays with, but not a guy that does a lot of talking, not a guy that, and that's okay. I think you want players to be comfortable in what's natural for their personality, because otherwise it would only look contrived. So he leads in a way that is effective for him.
I had a couple questions. One, can you kind of talk about just how the quarterbacks came in prepared, how they've listened in meetings, how their demeanors and everything, what you've seen so far?
Well, I'm really encouraged by really all the quarterbacks in terms of the improvement that they made over the summer, how much better and how much they've improved from spring practice till now. So that's been very encouraging. Now, as the multiples go up on offense and defense in terms of what they have to know, and then how much they're going to have to respond to in terms of reading and seeing, that'll probably kind of separate, who's most ready to play. And I think that's going to be a bit of a work in progress, but, we're really kind of pleased with how all the guys have performed. It's only been 2 practices, but everybody has a lot of opportunity to get better, but we're encouraged by the improvement that they made.
And the other one is a couple of coaches around the country have said social media is kind of a way to evaluate recruits. Some guys step over the line, the way they act. A couple of them have stopped recruiting guys because of the way they acted on social media. Has that happened with y'all where you kind of learned stuff you didn't want to know about a kid?
Well, I do think that social media sort of transcends a transparency to what someone may be like. When you post everything you think, everything you know, everywhere you are. And I don't think that I can specifically say that we've ever not recruited somebody because of something they posted or whatever, but I do think that, what people post, our own players, does reflect who they are in terms of their personality, their character, and, what kind of people they want to be. And I think that's important to our program. So not to say that's not something that we would pay attention to would not be correct. But I'd stop short of saying that we've ever not recruited somebody to this point because of the way they've represented themselves in social media.
Hey, Coach, I have 2. First, with the offensive line, once you get into fall, is it a time when you stop looking at guys at different positions and try and settle on which 5, or do you still move some guys around?
Well, I think that, you'd certainly like to have that scenario available to you, but, we have, I think, 4, if I count correctly, new guys that are coming into the offensive line. And if we had all positions settled, all depth issues settled, and we had 10 guys that we felt like were really, really what we needed at every position, then those 4 guys' development and their evaluation would not be really that important because you're set. Well, I can't say coming out of spring practice that, we're completely set with where we are in the offensive line. So there's still some, at least early in camp, evaluation that must go into the new players and how much the older guys improve relative to how those guys, the new guys, could contribute. And there may be a couple of those guys who could contribute. The goal and objective is going to get the 5 best guys at the positions that they can play, and get them together and get them to develop chemistry so that they can play well together as soon as possible. And then we want to get the next 5 guys behind them so we have the most possible depth to be effective as we go through the season.
And also off the field a little bit, but in light of both Ray Rice's situation and other situations around college football this off season, we've talked about this before, but do you still have speakers, education, so forth, as far as domestic violence prevention, opposite sex relations?
Well, we've already had a speaker about domestic violence. We've had 3 speakers to this point, and one of them has been about, domestic violence. So that is, definitely an area that, we want to continue to try to educate players on the importance of respect for other people, compassion for other people, and treating people like you would like to be treated yourself. And I think, we really try to teach our players that they really should not evaluate the circumstances of someone else in terms of how they treat them. Every person should be treated with the kind of respect that you would like to be treated with, regardless of what their station is in terms of anyone from whoever cleans the building or cleans the locker room to whoever the president of the university is. The right way to treat all those people is the right way. I mean, there's not some other way. So, and I think the message was very effective that we had the other night, and we continue to support that in terms of the kind of respect we want our players to show other people.
I wondered how much having a couple new assistants that you're familiar with, like Bo and Kevin on staff, how much that helps a transition into a year compared to maybe guys you aren't as familiar with.
Well, I always think it's, there's 2 things. When you have staff changes, you'd like to have new ideas, new enthusiasm, new people. But there also is always the question of how is a new assistant going to fit, with the other people that you have. Well, when you have guys that have worked for you in the past and you know their personality, the fit, and the buy-in that they have relative to how you do things, why you do things, how they work with players, I think, that has a tremendous amount of sort of currency that you have to take into consideration, and it certainly does help the transition because the players know the guys and they know how to coach the players relative to what the players have always been coached. So I think some of those things are real positives. But we don't limit ourselves to that because we still like new ideas, new enthusiasm, new energy in terms of how we develop as a program and what we do systematically.
Lane's kind of had a reputation of really connecting with quarterbacks, kind of getting the best out of them. What have you seen from him and how he kind of relates to the quarterbacks and how they've improved?
I think Lane has done a really good job since he's been here, providing leadership for the whole offense in terms of, the direction that we want to go, the identity that we want to have, and emphasizing some of the intangible things that, from a fundamental standpoint, that I think we needed to improve on. And I do think he does a really good job in terms of it's not just about knowledge. Some people have a tremendous amount of knowledge, but you have to be able to articulate it to a player in a way that they can understand it, and it's simple for them to go out and execute and be effective. And I think that systematically, Lane does that, with the players that he coaches and with the entire offense, which I think is really, really important.
Coach, the learning curve can be steep for any true freshman, especially a guy like Cam Robinson at left tackle. How has he progressed since the spring, and what have you seen from him?
Well, I think Cam has done really well, and you can definitely see, sort of progress in maturity, as a person and as a player from when he got here through spring practice, through the summer till now. And so we're encouraged by, that progress and development, and he has executed, much better. But I think, there's sort of, knowledge and experience is important to players to be able to adapt and adjust in the future. All right, so new game plans, new defense, new defensive fronts, new things happen. You have to be able to take that knowledge and experience and apply it and adapt and adjust. And I think for young players, that's as important as anything. And Cam's a smart guy, so hopefully, he'll be able to develop the ability to do that as we go through the season.
Last one in the back.
Coach, just talk a little bit about with Jake Coker enrolling this here just a few days ago. Just talk a little bit about how he's improved here just through fall camp here for these first couple of days that y'all have practiced. What's impressed you the most about him?
Well, Jake's been here all summer, and he's a very athletic guy. He's got the right character, attitude, work ethic. He's really sort of fit in really well with the other players in terms of, the kind of personality that he has and how they can relate to him. So all those things have been extremely positive. I see a guy that has certainly a lot of talent, but I also have seen a little bit of apprehension in terms of he's a very conscientious guy. He wants to do things right in terms of knowledge and understanding systematically the offense, making decisions, getting the ball the right place. So we're encouraged by what he's done. We're not disappointed at all. He's been a real positive addition to our program, and he's been very, very competitive, relative to the other quarterbacks, and we want to just continue to monitor that development. But probably yesterday, and it's only the second practice, but this is how quickly these kind of things can happen, is he probably had his best practice. Looked a lot more confident, played a lot faster, was more accurate with the ball. So all the things that are really important at that position, you could sort of see, starting to sort of fall into place. So, but I know that there's a lot of competition at this position, and no one seems to ever ask about Blake Sims, but he has done extremely well so far in camp as well.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.